Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Market Check, brought to you by BB. There is no second best live YouTube stream to talk about the markets. Welcome back, guys. It is March 2nd, our first day of a new month, our final month of the first quarter of the year. I'll spare you guys the joke that time flies, but time really does fly. And certainly we're already off to a pretty feisty start for March when we talk about geopolitical events potentially impacting the markets. We were down about 1% in pre-market trading. The S&P just flipped green. So we're going to talk about what that means for the markets, what this Bitcoin squeeze means for the markets. Is this just a Monday move before reversion later this week? Is the bottom in? We'll discuss all different types of scenarios with you guys. But I'm Snorlax. You guys also know me as Tommy. I'm joined by Big Louie and, of course, Jackus. Ready to have a great show for you all today. But before we can get started, before we can start cooking up alpha, sharing charts, and the like, by the way, if you guys have any recommendations, drop them in the comments, but not before hitting that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, but let's run the like button up. Really haven't been holding you guys accountable for the like button recently because, we've been in such a bearish trend. I haven't felt too inclined, but because there's so much going on in the markets, I'll be honest, I might hold you accountable today. We might end up looking at soybeans it's kind of funny because I feel like I make the soybeans joke, and it's been so long since we have actually, consistently done the soybeans meme that new viewers probably have no idea what I'm talking about when I open up with that. But
they might find out today, though.
They might find out. So let's hit the like button. We're going to have a good show, like I said, for you guys today. Start the week off on the right foot. But the S&P flipped green. The NASDAQ still red, the Dow still red. So we're still kind of waiting to see our directionality ultimately for the week. But crypto has given us a pretty sizable squeeze here to open the week, right? Bitcoin up 5-6%, ETH up 6-7%, squeezing out all of our war shorters, man. We see this every time. There's a war announced, people short, they get squeezed. I told this story in the morning Discord call, but I don't trade war news because I learned a hard lesson in 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine, and I was up nice P&L. I woke up the next day, I was flat. I didn't think anything of it, right? And then I got my brain squeezed out. I think it was either the Monday or Tuesday of that week. And because of that, I just don't trade war news. We'll see how everything resolves. Obviously, we're going to get some lower time frame volatility. Mainly, I think, is a function of people piling into positioning. Obviously, crude oil pumped. We'll discuss if that is a rally that is going to continue. And if it does, what that's potentially going to look like. But right now, it shouldn't be a surprise that we see just kind of like, oh, well, the world didn't end. So we'll crush volatility a little bit. But the uptrend on the VIX remains, and I think it's still an issue for the market that we're going to have to tackle likely at some point in March or April. But how are we doing, guys? What are we seeing in the markets? What are we thinking about the entire slate of the market that we're seeing right now? Obviously, crypto is very strong. Do we think this is a sign of things to come, or is this more of a mechanical squeeze before lower pricing?
Well, just to immediately answer this question, and welcome everyone. Hope you guys had an amazing weekend. But to discuss this question, I think that the fact that we got this news and the huge wick spike that we got, which was plus 25%, it was the highest wicks since November 25. So the highest wicks in 4 months. And crypto barely moved to the downside. Like we barely dropped on a illiquid weekend, and now BTC is up 6%, ETH is up 7%, AIF is up 11%, Virtual is up 14%. Just going through the watch list. So that tells me the market has been pretty much oversold, aka what we discussed. And when the bad news really stops pushing the prices lower, it's either telling you, hey, it's telling you three things. Either the sellers get exhausted, uh, the bad news isn't as bad, or buyers simply stepping in, right? In either case, it's a bullish thing, and you know it. Whenever there's a or there has been bottom in the past, and bad news has been striking, because you can think of like 2022 bear market, right? We got a collapse of Celsius and Luna and stuff like that, and each time you saw like a minus 10 to 20% candles on Bitcoin, right? But then we started to bottom after June 22, and there were still bad news, but the prices weren't really reacting. And the only time it did was FTX collapse, and that was like 3 days. Market sold off, then absorbed everything else, and then quickly repriced higher. So I think we obviously cannot tell if like this was DD bottom. I think that's too early, but it's definitely a good sign that it's not affecting crypto much anymore. Now, how it's going to affect the world markets in general, I think still a lot. I think obviously oil is going to be impacted heavy, which does impact CPI, which does impact equities. So I still think that we are going to see a further follow through, in whether it's March or April. But for now, yeah, I suppose some relief.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely interesting how he reacted. I'm hearing some echo a little bit. But yeah, interesting how he reacted over the weekend to that news, right? We did see initial sell-off, right, on that war news, on that strike news, and then we got a pretty big bounce back, over the weekend. That was pretty telling, right? And I was like, okay, is this just a short covering before markets open Monday and then we really puke, right? Like that was definitely a thought. But it was also like, bottoms, markets bottom on bad news, right? It's it doesn't really make sense, but bull markets end on good news, bear markets end on bad news. Do I think this is an end? I don't know, right? But like Jack has said, if sellers are exhausted, bad news isn't pushing price down, that's usually a sign for some sort of relief, right? So beautiful reaction today. I bet a lot of people, like Tommy said, heard war news, piled into shorts. They are getting absolutely squeezed here today. And like I was telling the Discord this morning, it's probably, the next day and a half, probably a let the dust settle type environment where I wouldn't be overly convicted or overly sizing into any direction if you weren't already, because I think it's going to be volatile, right? We don't know like how long this is going to last. We don't know all the details. I'm definitely no expert on what's going on. I'm not going to pretend to be. So I'm just staying fluid in the market. I was positioned pretty long as far as crypto stocks. We're seeing a beautiful day for crypto stocks today. You got like MicroStrategy up 7%, Coinbase up 5%. The miners up pretty big today. BMNR 10%, Circle up another 12, 13% today. You got the Hyperliquid treasury company up 20% today. So probably not what most people expected. And I always say this, but if markets were rational, everyone would be rich, right? Sometimes markets don't do the rational thing. And we've been in a downtrend in this sector of the market for 6-7 months now. So it makes sense to have some relief. So let's see how the day shakes out. I think we'll have more information heading into later in the week. But I think for now, maybe we see some relief. I think you see Bitcoin push up into 72K, right? Been talking a lot about this white zone that if Bitcoin's above, like 66.5, 66.6, or 65.6. I'm sorry. And it could hold here, which we are this morning. We should start pressing 72K, like local structures highs. If we push 72K and we could flip it, I don't see why we don't squeeze up to 80K, right? So up in this area. So, I think late shorts are getting squeezed here, and then we see how the market reacts going into the next couple days. But like, are we repeating 2022, right, for Bitcoin, which is pretty weird? How this isn't the first time we've had war escalation during a Bitcoin bear market. Like Tommy mentioned, we got it back here. 2022, middle of the bear market. Bitcoin was down almost the same amount it is now, like 52%, 50% off the all-time highs. We had the Russia invade Ukraine, wicked down, and then ultimately a couple months later, Bitcoin was up like 40 some odd percent for a bear market rally. So, that could happen, right? We could be looking at a 50% squeeze at a Bitcoin here in the next month or two, right? If we're going to see something similar to what we saw back here the last time we got some war escalation during a bear market. So we will see. But late shorts get wrecked. That's all I could say.
Never ever short war news. Just don't do it. You might feel like a genius for a little bit, but it almost always retraces, and it usually just squeezes out all of the impulse shorters, which is exactly what we've done right here. I've been wondering if this market can trade to like 72, 75K. If it's going to do it, I think it kind of needs to do it from within this move. But interesting, I was kind of looking at the flow just now on Bitcoin. Funding just went very negative on Bitcoin. So I'm not sure if that's somebody who squeezed price into some asks, or if that is a sign that we have another leg up coming in this rally. But I guess we'll find out this week, right?
For sure.
Yeah. Big squeeze out of alts today. I mean, even without all this, like, the market was due, right? And it's not as easy as, oh, we've been going down for X amount of months, we're down this percentage, like we need to bounce, right? Like that's not I mean, in a way it's a thing, but trying to time it is very difficult, right? But I don't think anyone should be surprised just to see some bounces and some rallies out of a market that's been in a downtrend since like September of last year, with little to no relief at all. Like altcoins haven't had like maybe one off here and there, but like no signs of bounce or life, right? So, I don't think anyone should really be surprised. Maybe surprised in the fact that we got bad news and it's pumping, but that's markets. So, very interesting. Oil's looking pretty good. Does it last? I don't know. Maybe we get a pullback first, and then we get a bigger move out of oil. I don't know. What do you think, oil, Jackus or Tommy?
Well, I've been bullish very much from the lows, as you know, and this move, while might be exciting, is really still nothing burger. I think it's gonna continue ripping higher. Obviously, nothing goes in a straight line, but I just don't see any reason for oil to be hitting any lower than what it already has. And gradually, I think it's going to be going for new all-time highs at some point through the next years. So locally speaking, we just had a major gap up. Like we haven't had this type of a gap in I don't even know when if we had this type of a gap. That tells you a lot. This gap is likely gonna get filled at some point. Probably the sooner it happens, the better. Because if we were to continue higher, we would probably come back later on. So if we do close it now, probably the best, because we could see higher prices quicker without much deeper retraces later on. And yeah, I think the next move kind of is to like 90. Then we could see some correction, I suppose.
90? Damn.
90. That would be the target for this wedge. Even higher. Yeah. I mean, just a technical target would be 91, 94, maybe even 95, just for this wedge alone. So
Energy stock enjoyers are having a great Monday morning.
Yeah, let's look at Chevron. This is one I sold a little too early. I should have held on to my Chevron calls, but made some nice money on them.
Never went broke taking profits.
Exactly. Chevron looks pretty good. Exxon looks pretty good. And these are some beautiful high time frame charts.
I think Chevron perhaps has like a little correction here, but generally speaking, I think it's set to go much higher.
Yeah, I think a pause here makes sense. Maybe some pullback, and then later on, because eventually this trade is going to get crowded, right? And it doesn't mean just because it's crowded means it doesn't go up, but people piling in at the highs on obvious war news that are like obviously war, a lot of the time increases demand for oil, and then maybe you get this shakeout phase of this before another leg higher. So if we get something like that, I definitely look to re-enter into oil, but I wouldn't be chasing, that's for sure. Which probably a lot of people did going into this morning.
And I maxed long oil. I maxed long oil this morning, and now I'm homeless. I maxed long oil, and I max shorted crypto at 63K. And now I'm homeless.
HFSB. Sorry, HFSB.
It's like, what?
In Czech, it's way quicker to say those letters.
So I think I'm going to call this one the
Hotel California. Pattern. Hotel California, man.
Hotel California.
You can check out, let your mind wander that we could break up or down, but you can never actually leave.
Yeah. The curse of a market analyst, huh?
Ironically, when I started calling Bitcoin the Bitcoin topping range, we know it's like the topping range, but I remember calling it the Hotel California. It trended pretty shortly after that. So I'm going to try to will that same black magic market.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm going to call this the turtle pattern. But turtles have heads, right? So we need a turtle head to pop out here.
Wondering if we get the turtle head.
We might. I mean, we're stacking highs, right? Like if this is going to be a significant top, like does it make sense that price left all of these stacked highs? Like, come on, let's be real. Like if you want to compare it to the last significant drop, which is fair to do. We ran the highs first, right? Like you don't stack a bunch of highs and then make a major pivot point high in the market with leaving easy liquidity like this behind, right? So I think this is fuel for a leg higher. And then if we do run these highs, does it lead to a longer rally or is it a sweep before a drop, but yeah, I mean, this looks like bait, right?
I actually think the best thing that could happen for bulls right now is that you see the MOVE index continue to elevate while SPY or the S&P hasn't moved. Because I kind of feel like what you need is you're going to need tech and financials to turn up and start to break higher. Right now, you have both kind of putting, I think, downward pressure on the S&P, which is preventing price discovery above 7,000. In addition, obviously, to positioning. There's a lot of call sellers at 7,000. But I think if you were to see the move index like really start to move, no pun intended, really start to move while the S&P is still elevated up here, then maybe we see the Fed, whoever, step in and say, yeah, we're going to stimulate, we're going to provide some liquidity. And if that's the case while we're still up here, I mean, the market's probably going to rip, right? Financials will turn up, tech will turn up, the S&P probably breaks out above 7,000, and then I'd be looking for like 7,500 to 8,000. But until we see a shift, I think, in that dynamic, what I see is still, okay, tech complacency, financials bleeding into kind of bleeding into support. You want to see these two, I think you need to see these two reverse, actually, if you want to see a breakout.
Yeah. I mean, the NASDAQ just looks like continuation right now. This doesn't look horrible, right? I mean, this could just easily be a, ascending triangle before continuation. These are continuation patterns. Could just be a pause, right? Could just be a pause after a monster rally off the March and April lows, right? And yeah, it looks lethargic, it looks heavy, but it could just be a pause before continuation. And I think we're going to find out. But I mean, if you had to look at sentiment out there, everyone's kind of skeptical on the strength of this market, and that's not usually how tops occur, right? Major tops in equity markets don't occur when everyone's nervous about a top occurring, right? Does it mean it can happen? No. I mean, of course it can, right? But usually the tops occur when no one thinks it's going to occur, right? So, I feel like the most surprising move for equities would be a leg higher, honestly. But I mean, it could be the echo bubble of crypto Twitter I live in as well. So I don't want to put too much weight into that thinking, but I mean, everywhere you look, everyone's short the stock market. Everyone's worried about the stock market coming lower, this and that. I'm short stocks. It's not very contrarian right now.
Yeah, I think the market is being very heavily driven by correlations at the moment. And so if we are going to break out, I think we do need the tech narrative to obviously like be the driver again. But I also think, if we're breaking out, it probably means the dollar is dropping significantly lower. Either you're going to need the dollar to drop a lot lower, or you're going to need the VIX to drop a lot lower. I have a hard time seeing them kind of suppress the VIX. They've tried, right? They've pushed it to like 17, 18 a few times. I don't think this is going to resolve the way the VIX did in November, where it just kind of like bled into it turned out to just be kind of like a bear flag and, back to support. So I kind of feel like you're going to have to take some air out of the dollar if you want to rip markets here, which I don't think is impossible for the record. I continue to kind of differ from someone like David Levinson when it comes to what I expect from the dollar. But yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like you need to see either the dollar drop or the volatility index to drop pretty substantially to get that rally up. And you're also going to need people to start buying spot, because what's happening is people are, I mentioned they're selling calls, but there's also just not that many buyers for the underlying index here, the S&P. People are willing to take right tail bets on options, right? So like the S&P, maybe they'll bet like an 8,000 strike for the end of next year, but they're not willing to buy the index itself. They're not willing to buy NVIDIA close to 200. And I think these things you need to see a change in that behavior for me to think, okay, well, yeah, we are going to rally to 7,500 to 8,000 on the S&P. If we break above the highs, then I mean, I think we'll get there probably much sooner than people would realize from the ensuing bull crush and just kind of like positioning, what would you call it, musical chairs that would occur after that. But I think that's what you want to be looking for here if you're a bull. is for those things to, the things that have, because they've been trading at elevated levels like the VIX, you haven't been able to see new highs on these equity assets, right? Look at a Tesla, for example. It's been bleeding since mid-December, and it's been progressively making these lower highs on a lower time frame at the same time that you have the VIX making higher lows. So it's like compression.
Yeah, Tesla's still a toss-up for me. What are your thoughts on this chart, Jackus? Because this is actually something you brought to my attention a while ago. You still think we're here?
Yes, I do. But we could have perhaps another retest here of like 100. But I do think that generally what you can do here, Louis, is draw a channel, even connecting the 2009 high with the 2022 high. 2009. Yeah, and so I think we are breaking down from this channel. Yeah, and I think we should head to much lower prices. But here locally, after like we are on that verge of a breakdown, I think we could once again come back to 100, but then roll over. Maybe not that high. Maybe not that high, but
Not
like
that high.
just slightly.
Yeah, I mean this. Like if you really zoom out, like locally, the dollar's showing a little bit of strength, but like zooming out, like we're in a very similar scenario that we were coming out of the .com boom, right? Big bubble burst, 2099, 2000s, and then stocks went on to rally for like 8 years through 2008, with the dollar pretty much dropping from 2022 until 2028. Like, not many people talking about that, right? Not many people talking about a scenario that we rally for multiple years from here, right? It'd be really interesting. Obviously, you have peaks and troughs in between. Nothing's a straight line, but if you're looking at something like the dollar, it's telling an interesting story here. Where if this follows anything similar to what it did here, that'd be pretty bullish for risk assets for the next couple of years. And like Tommy said, you need that tech narrative, right? Like what if the narrative is finally going to be crypto? It's been AI, as it should be. I think AI is crazy tech. But we're seeing how innovative and productive AI can be, especially more recently. It's getting pretty crazy. So like honestly, it makes sense for that AI took some out of the crypto bubble, right? This go around. But I think we could always see that shift where like crypto stable coins become the currency of these AI agents, these AI bots. I think that's a huge narrative that can propel crypto back into the mainstream.
Yeah, I'm just not bullish on the dollar high time frame. I think the chart looks incredibly bearish, actually.
Yeah.
The difference I think I have with other people is I think we're headed for a period of deflation at this point, which is kind of hard. Wait, what is that? Oh,
what?
Sorry, I just I think we're headed for a period of probably deflation, which doesn't really seem like it's a super salient point when we're having these issues with the Middle East. And obviously oil seems like it's going to be getting more expensive, but I do think that we are seeing yields kind of materially come down here over the last few months, and structured, I can't exactly say looks super conducive for a ton of upside. So, I think the market is kind of probably front running the narrative that we are headed for some deflationary pressures rather than inflationary, which was kind of not my bias a few months ago, but hey, here we are.
What are you watching specifically, like TLT?
I'm just watching the 10-year.
10-year.
Yeah, I'm just watching the 10-year.
I haven't looked at that in a while.
I think it made sense that we had a mechanical bounce here, but I don't really think the bounce is going to stick. Maybe it does.
What's the ticker again? US 10, right? US 10.
I just do the 10Y, and it's usually going to be the
10Y.
first one.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Oh. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some compression going on here. You got the fake out. Let's see. Yeah, this is a crapshoot. This is a crapshoot.
I mean, it's compressing, right? To me, it's
Yeah.
like, are you seeing effectively like a Bitcoin 2021 distributive top getting ready to mark down significantly lower? Are we seeing? I mean, it doesn't really look like vertical accumulation to me anymore. Maybe it just stays pinned in a range for a while, but it looks more bearish to me, I think, with the recent move down that we've had than it does bullish.
Yeah. I don't have, this could go either way. I don't know enough to comment on it, to be honest, other than from a charting perspective, but it's at a must hold level. That's all I could really say here. But yeah, I see what you're saying about the Bitcoin top type price action up here.
That's kind of the vibes it's starting to give me at this point. But I wouldn't say that I've been very great at trading yields. So take it with a grain of salt.
Silver's got a big down day today, huh? This completion shoulder on silver?
I think so, but just not here yet. But I do think that silver doesn't really move that much higher that soon. Like after the move it had, I think it kind of have a complacency shoulder, but sort of like move sideways for like a year or something.
Yeah, I could see that. But yeah, a lot of people
just generally a volatility drop,
Yeah, this is a death blow, man. It's a volatility killer. That's for sure. That's a monster daily candle. Yeah, you could definitely see a lot of this. For likely maybe this, or maybe it goes up. Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, I saw a lot of people getting bullish silver and gold last week. That's getting curbed today. Yeah, this could easily be a complacent shoulder too for gold.
Too.
So.
Brad Morrison, to answer your question, if it's still worth buying oil here, I suppose that would depend on your time frame. I definitely do think it makes sense, like very longer term, right? But like shorter term, it's probably not the best buy. Like you are generally FOMOing into this move, obviously, into like the local move. But from a higher time or like a macro perspective, right? Higher time frame macro up to you. These are pretty cheap prices still. Like you are still beneath the prior swing. Like you haven't technically made still a new monthly higher high. So from that point of view, you are early. From like a local move, you are late. So yeah, you need to answer the question to yourself: from what point of view are you looking to buy?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, if you got like a couple year time horizon, this is generally a good area to DCA. But locally, you're pretty much chasing a move off the lows that's been occurring for the last 3 months, and that just kind of blew off a little bit. So with that in mind, you make your call. But
if you're a
big
crypto
gap up
guy
today
like that, I mean, if you're a crypto guy though, right? You see a setup like that, you're thinking, yeah, that's about to pay very quickly. At least if you're longing like altcoins traditionally, a slow grind into an impulse like that.
Yeah.
So the idea that you need to be patient, I think, is a good point, Louis, because it's a very different asset.
Ain't that a fact? What about Hyperliquid? Big move this weekend, huh?
But yeah, I was pretty surprised it moved the way that it did. Pretty crazy stuff.
What was it? The narrative, everyone's chasing oil and metals again? Is that? I think I saw that floating around.
Yeah, I think, obviously it got a lot of attention because you can trade oil. You can trade oil on chain when normal markets are closed. I was thinking about how weird that is, honestly. I know we're so used to markets being closed on the weekend, but think about how ridiculous that is, actually. How like adults just like take 2 days off and there's no trading of these assets when, shit happens on weekends. So like, it's just funny.
What I've noticed, Tommy, that they schedule, like since Trump took over, all of these events have been scheduled on the weekend. It's like even the tariff news weekend, Iran weekend, and I don't know what it was.
Crypto Reserve, remember that one?
Yeah, all of these are on weekend, and it's on purpose.
Oh, absolutely. They don't want those VIX spikes to impact the market, but they also can't they have not been able thus far to erase the floor of bull yet either. So something's going to have to give, I think.
Tommy, what was that scenario where you were, this was a couple months ago, I think we were talking about the VIX could be going up, but it could be bullish.
Yes. So, in the tech bubble, we saw the VIX continue to move higher with price. We did see that. Upside vol is hard to get in the current construction of the market because most people, we've kind of just like incentivized upside to be a part of low volatility grind. So like correlations in general, obviously buoy price just from the fact that they exist, but you can break those correlations by getting the super volatile upside. It's just a question of, you gotta kind of have like a positioning element to it. You gotta have a disbelief element to it. It could happen, right? We've seen it before. You're not going to see like VIX to 40 though with upside. That's probably not going to happen. But you can see the VIX just stay elevated like this for a while. Big pullbacks, big pumps.
Yeah,
it's kind of, I think, what you need at this point. Bulls, that is. Because it seems like we've kind of hit like a saturation point on just purely lifting the market by shorting bull.
Yeah, that's true. Wow, well, markets flipped green.
When is Trump going to victory lap?
I think he's speaking at 11. So is that now?
That was new all-time highs. What are you talking about? That we are, I'm doing something on this island. That was at all-time high.
I'm kind of tempted to short Nvidia here. I'm going to be honest. 3% pump today.
I don't know, man. This is starting to look more and more continuation. Like, I feel like this should have broken down already. Not that it can't, but man, oh man, this is getting tight and compressed in here.
Everyone wants to short this.
It's true.
Nobody wants to buy it.
That's true also.
So that's range.
That's why it looks like it is.
But yeah, usually, with these very watched stocks, the way it does is that the idea is probably not bad, but like the market will go sideways for a while. Like, imagine how many people have options looking at like 150. It's probably going to come. The question is when and how many times they sweep the high.
Yeah, it'll come after like this.
What I like about Nvidia is it's kind of just become like if you want to short Nvidia, you're just longing the VIX. You just kind of like compare the two charts.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, like Nvidia moves higher because of short vol, and it moves lower when it's long vol. And I think that Nvidia options are just probably better priced than explicitly long the VIX or VIX ETFs. So a little bit of options alpha, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Look at Bitcoin here. Nice move today. A little bit.
Nvidia is the world economy, but unironically, this is true. I mean, the AI trade is effective. I honestly feel like I was thinking about it over the weekend, like the American tech trade is kind of the only thing keeping the world together right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Study the fate of the world on the back of 7 companies who are all building technology that is trying to actively replace the workforce. So it's kind of
Which
like
we're seeing now.
kind of a ticking time bomb anyway.
That was a big, what was that, Friday or Thursday?
Yeah. How are they trading today? What is it, block?
Yeah, block, I think, right?
Or is it, what is it?
Block.
I think the ticker's
Circle?
XYZ.
Oh, XYZ. Yep, there it is. Not up much today. Oh, so this stock was down pretty big.
This is like the
Very
PayPal
big.
chart.
Yeah. I've been watching PayPal too. I wanted to buy it on that big gap down. I didn't. I think someone's going to buy it, which would probably be bullish. Okay. So yeah, I saw a lot of headlines. This stock was up like 20 some odd % after cutting, what was it, like half of the workforce?
Yes.
But I mean, you're bouncing off range lows. That makes sense regardless. But yeah, we're starting to see it. We're starting to see AI, companies are going to be utilizing AI. The better it gets, which makes these companies more productive at a cheaper net basis. And that's bullish for these stocks, I guess, realistically. But if no one has jobs, then who's going to be your customer at the same time? So I don't know.
Chicken and egg.
A lot of, yeah, exactly. But this is an interesting chart. I mean, this looks like Link in like 2022, 2023 that end up breaking.
I was just kind of thinking the same thing about PayPal when I was looking at it. It kind of reminded
PayPal
me
broke down.
of that deviation.
Yeah, PayPal. I've been watching it. But yeah, I mean, if this can get back above 55, 56, it's interesting. But yeah, this looks like an altcoin chart right now.
It's a brutal chart, man.
Yeah. Brutal.
Like, I don't even know what to think about a chart that looks like that. I want to buy mechanically. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like,
there's a reason it's down here.
Yeah. I remember, who was it? I think Tucker made the joke. Like, who was the last person that used PayPal? And I'm like, I don't know. I actually don't even know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
not much of a reason to anymore.
That's like ARK if it went the other way.
Yeah.
What is ARK doing right now?
Ugly.
Please talk about another interesting chart.
ARK. Down 4% today.
ARKK.
Oh, this doesn't make sense. Interesting.
Kathy Wood is making money.
Yeah, she is.
Take that what you will.
This looks like it wants more.
Yeah, I'm not, wouldn't say I'm necessarily bearish on that chart.
Interesting.
Good old ARK. Good old Kathy.
This is the whatchamacallit, Tommy.
The Livermore.
It's like Coinbase. Coinbase. Right. Coinbase is like right here. You never know. We'll see.
I don't know if I would say Coinbase is there, but I'll have to push back there. Oh. But that's more because I don't like Coinbase.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me get on a 10-minute soapbox about it.
Would.
Kathy Wood. Would you?
Kathy Wood.
Do you guys have any other tickers we want to take a look at here? Oh, is that Jackass?
Ooh.
Yeah, I was actually just looking at ARK versus the NASDAQ in 2008.
Yeah, I went through a full cycle.
I was sending this tweet down here, but did I buy some? Absolutely fucking not.
Would it be worth the headache to buy a stock like this though? For like, what was it, 100? I guess it gained 100%, didn't it? It took like the whole cycle to do it, but
200%, but like nobody bought down there.
No. I mean, this can go on a couple-year run, honestly, if things go right. Maybe worth DCAing and building a position, like just some passive flows, just to have in the port.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't chase it.
To be honest, I actually kind of like it here.
Yeah, it is actually kind of coming off a pullback now. So if you wanted to add to it, it'd probably be here. You got a nice 25% move back to all-time high, well, local highs, and then all-time highs. You got another double. You got a nice 120% move, so not horrible.
I know a man who once said that he didn't want I think, what was it, a 7 or 8x return? Wasn't good enough for it.
10x, too little.
I think that's what it was on Doge, which ended up not playing out, but it was just funny to hear him say that way back in the day. If you're like a very long-term market check enjoyer, you might know what conversation we're referencing, but if you're not, then you probably have no idea what we just said. Regardless, guys, that's probably it for the show today. I mean, we covered everything going on in the Middle East. Obviously, markets are pumping today. We'll be back on Wednesday for another episode to discuss. I'm sure there will be new developments, and we've got a blood moon tonight and tomorrow, so that should be very entertaining. What's unique about this blood moon is that at Pacific time, I want to say the blood moon happens at 3:33 a.m. and you almost can't even script some of these things, but we'll see if it has a tangible impact on the market. We'll see if there's any developments with the Middle East and anything else in between. But if you guys enjoyed Market Check today, a reminder that we host this show throughout the week, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, whenever the New York Stock Exchange is open. You can expect to find us here on those days with our typical start time around 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we'll see you guys again on Wednesday, but make sure to tune in for Market Talk, hosted by the legendary King Wabi. That is an X Spaces hosted by Wabi, like I said, but also through the Because Bitcoin account on X. So make sure to stay following and subscribe so you can be notified, not just when we schedule those spaces, but of course, also when we go live. Last week we had some amazing spaces over there, so definitely check out this week's. I'm sure this week is going to be amazing for afternoon spaces. So I'll be tuning you guys there. And yeah, in the meantime, thank you again as always for tuning in. And of course, guys, now more so than ever, stay safe.